All right. Was having an issue going live there. It said something was up with my connection, but we're live. Here we are. All right, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Science and Technology. First of all, please like this stream. Please share it. And please subscribe to my channel. Well, today I'm back with I'm here to talk with a guest. This is someone I had been seeing in the YouTube streets over the last year or so. Over on my original channel, I did an interview with Ramil Amir earlier about money and financial literacy and business and investing, and someone I'd seen in Ramil's chats and in Mr. Fantastic's chats over the last year or so was Gabe A. And I, without talking to Gabe, I could see that Gabe was involved in the tech sector, and I was thinking, okay, so his last name is Agboruche. Agboruche. I might have misspelled that in the title, but I can fix that on the back end. So from watching from a excuse me, from watching from a distance and seeing some of the conversations taking place, I could see that Gabe was in the tech sector. It turns out he's in cybersecurity. And I was thinking, okay, it'd be cool to collaborate with him. I set this channel up intentionally with the name Big Discussion 76 Science and Technology, so that it could also cover content from the tech sector. My background is in the biomedical sciences. The STEMs are very broad: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. There's a lot that fits under those four letters. And I went on Ramil's panel, and Gabe came up, and recently he agreed to come up. So before I bring Gabe up, I just want to show you guys something. I want to tell you a quick story about my little history with cybersecurity. So a couple of years ago, I had heard it, but I didn't really know what cybersecurity was, even though we'd been using it at my day job. We use it all the time, but I was able to monetize my blogging platform and go into business in terms of being a writer and a blogger and in the area of SEO. And a couple of years ago, I published a piece. I think I just interviewed a basketball player from Western New York, which is where I'm from. And that piece was performing and it was doing really, really well. And I woke up, it was a Saturday morning, and I logged into my blogging platform, and it started redirecting to a website I did not recognize. I think the website was somewhere over in Europe, but the point is that my website was down. It was hacked. It wasn't performing. It wasn't doing what I needed it to do. And so I immediately called my my web host, which is GoDaddy, and I said, "Hey, look, this is happening." And they said, "Okay, we'll take a look." And they said, "Okay, well, it looks like there's some malware inside your site, and it's redirecting." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" I said, "Well, there's something in there now that's making it go to this site over in Europe." So it took them. I thought my whole site was gone for good, and I thought I was going to have to trash the whole thing and rebuild it. And I had all the data, I had all the pictures, I had all the blog posts in Word files and in picture files. But when you think about having to rebuild a site, all of your data is lost, all of the metadata is lost, all the likes and shares, all the comments, all that's lost. So it's very much when your site goes under attack, it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's a lot. it's a lot to have to think about rebuilding it. And so fortunately, it took about a week or maybe a week and a half, but they were able to flush the site out and get rid of that malware. And now I put some security on the site, and it works. And I haven't endured any attacks since then. But I wanted to tell the story to say that cybersecurity is very, very important. And it turns out on my blogging platform, there's a lot of content on cybersecurity. This picture that I'm using in the background actually comes from this post here. So I looked up a number of posts on my blogging platform using the search term cybersecurity, and a ton of stuff came up. I left those blog posts underneath this video in case you want to take a look for yourself and learn some more about it beyond what Gabe's going to talk about today. I want to invite any viewers to, if you're new to this channel and new to this, if you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to donate to the channel, my Cash App is below this video. I'll probably drop it in the chat at some point. And with that, I'm going to bring my guest up, which is Gabe. And I have some questions here for Gabe. And, depending upon how long he can hang around, maybe we'll open it up. Maybe we'll shut it off right when he's done. So let's see. So I'll bring Gabe up right now and we will start. Gabe.
Hello. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, man. Thanks for agreeing to come over and talk about this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, just happy to be here and, contribute to the conversation, because just as you were mentioning in your, you were talking about what happened to your website, man, a lot of times for people who at times use, I guess, IT services, whether it's web-based or maybe even something that's just local to their personal computer, some of that cybersecurity is a bit foreign to them, right? And where those threats come in, it can be a little difficult initially to address them. So I definitely feel your pain, because I know a lot of people are in that same type of position. So,
well, it was like my car malfunctioning. Like, what's wrong with it? It's making this noise. I don't know what it's doing. So it's like that.
Very much so, right? Because with this, I mean, today the digital infrastructure is embedded in the way that we live our lives. Right. Yeah. You can't do anything without your phone. You can't do anything without your computer, whether it's banking, healthcare, I don't know, entertainment. I mean, the digital infrastructure is embedded into the everyday life. So just like you said, just like a car, transportation, it's just as important to have that digital, those IT devices, those IT assets secured. So yeah, man.
Okay.
Definitely understand.
Yeah, and before we jump into the questions, in my job, I'm in regulatory affairs in the federal government, and we're working remotely now, and but we use something called a VPN, a virtual proxy network. And I've been hearing that acronym for the last 3 to 4 years, but you use this stuff all the time, but you have no idea what it is or what it does or why it's significant. So, okay, I know your time is valuable. You might have stuff to do after this, so I'll jump in.
Sure.
And with these questions here. So, Gabe, just briefly about your background. Where are you people from? It looks like you're African.
So that's a question I always have to answer. Okay, so my dad is from Nigeria, right? So West Africa. He came to America in around 1975 for school. My mom, has always been here, what you might consider ADOS, right? So they met while they were in college in Detroit at a college called Wayne State University.
Okay.
And that's where they got married, and that's where they produced myself and my sister. So boom. But so I'm half and half. So I'm actually what people would call, true quote unquote African American, because my dad is the African part and my mom is the American part. So hey, that's my background. But as I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of influence to the Nigerian side because my parents divorced early.
Yes.
So I pretty much just grew up as a kid in the city of Detroit. So I guess, political term, I identify as African American. That's the culture that I grew up in. So, Yep.
Okay. Well. Okay. So I have a few follow-ups.
Sure.
Which tribe are you? Igbo, Yoruba? Which one?
Oh man, that's another one I always have to answer, right? So Igbo. So the three major tribes in Nigeria is Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa, right?
Okay.
I'm none of those. So my dad's tribe comes from a derivative of the Yoruba people, which is called Yorubo. So Urhobo. And we're actually a small minority group within Nigeria. So we come as a derivative of one of those larger tribes, and the majority of us are in what you call Delta State, which is another region within Nigeria. Yep, that is us, or my father's tribe, or my tribe. Yep.
Okay. Second question, and then we'll move on. I went to Michigan, so I was out in Ann Arbor for about 6 years. Yeah. Which part of Detroit you from?
So I'm from the west side of Detroit. So off what you call Evergreen and Grand River, in a community called like Brightmoor, or what they say, Brightmo. So so that's like the west side of Detroit. It borders with a nicer area in Detroit called Rosedale Park. So I'm from the west side of Detroit, but I went to high school, and you probably would have heard this many times. I know a lot of us go to Michigan, Cass Technical High School.
Yep.
That's where I went to. Yep. Boom. See, I went to Cass Tech. Yep. So that is where I'm from, and that's where I went. Yep.
A lot of the folks went to Cass Tech. They went to King. They went to Southfield, Lathrop.
Yeah.
I remember hearing those names quite a bit.
Yeah, Cass and King are rivals in sports and I guess schools in general. So if you say King, my nephew actually now he's a freshman at King right now, and I'm just so disappointed in him. But he should have went to Cass. But that's just a Detroit thing. It's not a biggie.
Okay, yeah, and just quickly before we move on, yeah, my buddy went to St. Martin de Porres.
Okay, de Porres, yeah,
he went to de Porres.
Yeah, so that's another. There are so many different rivalries because my older brother, he went to a school called Benedictine. So St. Martin de Porres and Benedictine were huge rivals in Detroit too, especially in basketball. So yeah, man, it's all a Detroit thing, right?
Small world. Yeah, man. Hey, I enjoyed it, and that was one of the reasons why I chose U of M, because I'm a Buffalo kid, which is not far from Detroit. Yeah, and I had to choose between Wisconsin and University of Michigan, and I said, okay, well, I can go into Detroit. I could do so many other things, and it's closer to Buffalo, so I'm going. Yeah, I'm going, and I enjoyed going. Yeah, it was like a lot like Buffalo to me,
right? Especially in engineering, I have a lot of friends that went to UW-Madison. Is that where you were going to go? Or were you going to go to Milwaukee?
Madison. Yep.
Madison. Oh man, I'm sure you probably visited there. I used to love going up there because I used to be a part of an organization. This kind of goes back into some of my background too. All throughout college, I was a part of NSBE, which stands for the National Society of Black Engineers. And there we would do different regional conferences. So I was a part of a conference planning committee, and one of our regional conferences for Region 4 was up in Madison, Wisconsin. So I used to travel back and forth there all the time to do conference prep, do signage, meet with conference hall people. So I used to love Madison. Madison was pretty dope. Yeah,
well, I was coming from a HBCU. I was coming from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay,
and I went and visited Madison right there in the wintertime.
Oh no, that's the worst.
Yeah. And it's the weather's slightly colder right up there.
Oh yeah,
versus southeastern Michigan. So I was like, oh man, it's further out. It is cold. Yeah, they're gonna let me come, but I don't know, man.
That wind is something else. I don't even think it's the temperature. It's the wind or something with the wind. It's just bone chilling cold. It's not even a comparison to how it is in Southeast Michigan. So, yep.
Okay. Well, okay. So let's get into the nuts and bolts a little bit here.
Sure.
How did you get interested in engineering and cyber security as a youngster?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you fill that in, but I'm gonna follow that up with: did you excel early on in math and physics and those kinds of things?
hmm So I'm going to answer the second part because I think that directly aligns with my background. So the
Yes.
second part with that math and physics, that was my biggest I guess transition into that of tech and STEM in general. So when I was in elementary school and middle school, there is a program in Michigan. It's called, and again with Wayne State University, full circle here. It's called the Wayne State Math Corps, which what it is that it's pretty much a summer camp for math, where they would pretty much take all these DPS or Detroit Public School students, and then we would go to Wayne State's campus, take college level math and also math for our next grade. So if you were in sixth grade, you would be taught math for seventh grade. If you were in seventh grade, eighth, and so on and so forth, all the way until you're out of high school. I was a part of that program from like sixth grade all the way until I was about to graduate from high school. So I learned pretty much advanced math topics such as mathematical proof, mathematical logic, probability and statistics while I was in middle school and in high school. But also aligned with that, I was learning the math for my next grade. And I was learning this from students who were in high school and in college. So that's kind of the structure, right? It was the students. Then there were these people called TAs, which were teaching assistants.
Mm-hmm.
These were students also, were in high school and in college, who taught those younger kids that math for the following grade. But then you would also have college professors from Wayne State who would be teaching you math that was even advanced, which was college level math. And then we would do all types of little fun games. Like we would have a chess master come every single year, and he would pretty much put everybody in a circle. So all of us were learning chess, and they would put all of us in a circle. And literally this chess master would go around and just play. He's literally playing 50 games at a time, just killing everybody. But that was kind of like a challenge that was there. And then we would also be playing other math kind of related games like Mancala, and we would do mathematical proof type of games throughout the program over the summer. So I say that to say I would go to math camp every single summer from sixth grade all the way until I graduated from high school. And that's in the city of Detroit, and it's called Wayne State Math Corps. So that was my initial introduction to STEM as a youngster.
Okay. Wow. So
yeah,
when okay, so I just want to tease out what your ecosystem was like. Were your parents very educationally inclined? Did you just have a natural gift for it? Was it was it a work ethic that was instilled in you early on? Like, do your homework, bring home all A's. What was it? Or was it just the environment at school?
I think it was a combination of all of those things that you mentioned. So one is that my mother, probably out of all her brothers and sisters, she went into nursing early. So my mother is a nurse, but she's an advanced practice nurse. So she went and got her bachelor's in nursing, passed the NCLEX and all that. And then she transitioned into a master's program within Wayne State, a master's in nursing supervisory. So she is a nurse supervisor for DMC, for the Detroit Medical Center. They're in Detroit. So I wouldn't say she's not very math inclined because nursing doesn't require a lot of that. She's taking statistics and algebra and whatnot, but education wise, that was always something that was pushed within our household. Now earlier saying that my family, my mother and my father were divorced, but my father also was pretty educationally inclined. I don't know if you know about Nigerian families, but they are all about degrees. My father probably has, 4 or 5 degrees, 2 or 3 masters in like biological sciences. He's a CPA. He does lectures. He does all of those type of things. So I would say both parents have always pushed education, but not particularly STEM, right? One very much so in the medical field, which there are some intersections there. But the other was very much so CPA and business. So that was more of my father. So it was pushed, But I think that there was a degree of it where once my mom got me into this program, it was pretty much I got my influences from that program as it concerns math, science, and STEM. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. So in high school, were you? It sounds like you were accomplished early on, and you were kind of moving in the right direction. Where they did the technical schools come looking for you, or what was that like? Your transition from high school to college?
Now, I wouldn't say that I was very much so inclined in the area of um, like all of the sciences, or I was specifically like this prodigy that schools were targeting. But I would say this, that math gave me confidence to be successful in pretty much all the other subjects. So because I felt that I was good at math, I feel like I could do anything. So the science and the physics that just came along. The writing, I'm like, as long as I can make it make sense from a perspective, right? I really didn't care too much about writing or like reading comprehension. I'm like, I need to be able to read this and comprehend this so I can apply some math to it. So for Cass Tech, so Cass, King, and Renaissance high schools, you have to take what you call like an entrance exam.
Yes.
So there is, so I took the entrance exam and pretty much I scored way above in math, and the other subjects I did good in. So that is kind of what propelled me into Cass Technical High School, where then at Cass, they have curriculums. And in the curriculum at Cass, I chose the engineering and manufacturing curriculum. So that's kind of was that transition from math camp to a love for math, where I felt very confident in all my other subjects, to doing well on that placement exam for Cass, King, and Renaissance, to choosing an engineering and manufacturing career field or kind of like a major, really, at Cass Tech. So that kind of propelled me. That math camp propelled me down that line.
Okay. Well, you'll think this is cool. In Buffalo, we had Hutch Tech.
Okay.
So I followed my brother there. We had an entrance exam, and I got in and I majored in biotechnology.
There we go.
But I like to tell everybody from K through 12, I was not an overachiever by any means. I was kind of very unfocused, just very unfocused. I think I had a few blips of success, but I didn't understand how to channel it and focus and control it until I got to the undergraduate level. So.
Now, was that program that you were in, was it like aimed towards like inner city youth, or was it something that was more prestigious where there was like a cost associated or something with it?
The program?
That you were in.
Oh, I wasn't in a program in particular. I just in Buffalo, you go from K to 12, and then we only had one technical high school.
Okay.
So that was the one, you had to apply to get in there, and that was pretty much it. I wasn't involved in really any other STEM activity from K through 12, which is amazing.
Gotcha. But, because I think I hear a lot of times there's conversation around not really quote unquote giving back to the community or investing in the community when I in the black community specifically. But when I see my experience, I've seen that these programs targeted towards inner city youth, inner city black youth, I've been able to propel into STEM from being involved in those programs that were offered to my demographic of students or my demographic of peers. And I know a lot of people who have very similar stories who I came up with. And there's other programs in Detroit called DAPSAT, Detroit Engineering something programs, which is very prolific, right? It's something that is targeted towards inner city black youth. So I think that that's something that has been a big influence in my life, is that those programs, which help me and give me a mindset towards STEM. Yep.
Okay. All right. So moving along, you went to Cass. Where did you go after Cass?
So after Cass, I had some different options. So while I was in Cass, I was in the marching band at Cass. So Cass's marching band and many marching bands in Detroit were kind of HBCU styled, right? So high stepping, what you call cranking, so louder play. It has a very Southern marching band feel to it.
Yes.
So while I was there, I was in a marching band, and I got heavily recruited to go to schools like Norfolk State University, Tennessee State University, Southern. But my thing is that I wanted to go into engineering, and many of those schools, I wouldn't say that they didn't have engineering programs, but some of them were not necessarily accredited, or they were not. When you put them side by side with other what you call PWI or primarily white institutes, the equipment, the program, the staff, it just a lot of times didn't I guess push the HBCU engineering programs into the highest light. So what I did is that I actually ended up going to Michigan Tech. So I don't know if you know about Michigan Technological University. It's way up north in Michigan.
It's on the UP.
Mm-hmm. Yep, in the UP of Michigan. So I went from Detroit all the way down southeast Michigan to way up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, 10 hours away from Detroit for college. And pretty much Michigan Tech is an engineering college. It's an engineering university, which pretty much produces world-class engineers all around the United States and the world. So that's where I ended up going.
Okay, yeah, that's in Houghton, Michigan.
Houghton, Michigan.
Yeah, yep. I knew. I had a female friend who went up there. I've never been to the UP. This, my entire time. I heard the weather gets worse up there. But that's a very that's a top-notch institution. I was gonna say I don't know what years you went, but I know that around probably in the 90s, a lot of the HBCUs, because I went to an HBCU. I think some of them started getting into financial trouble, and the financial trouble leads to their accreditation status being compromised. And that's actually the whole going to an HBCU or not going to an HBCU. That's a big deal. One of the selling points is the history and the culture,
which is important. I'm not denying that at all.
Well, what's funny is that even once you get out into the working world, I've learned recently that there's this, I went to an HBCU, I met friends that I keep in contact with still, we're a family. So there's a little bit of quasi-shaming.
Yeah.
People who didn't go to HBCU.
I get it all the time. They say, what's the PWI? Oh. Y'all just go to school for school. We go to school for more than that. We're a family. I get that all the time.
Yeah, but that's an important choice to make, because the undergraduate institution you go to, that's gonna play a large part in where you go afterwards. So if you're going to an institution that doesn't have access to the private sector, and that's not even accredited, you're kind of setting yourself up to have a harder time later on. So that there's a little bit more to that decision than, I went to an HBCU and, we do homecoming every year, and so.
Yeah. And it's 2 points to that. One is that I was going to be going to an HBCU on a marching band scholarship too.
Yes.
Because out of state tuition for a lot of HBCUs, right? Because I'm born and raised in Detroit, I would have to pay out-of-state tuition. It would have been, multiple times more than what my in-state tuition was for Michigan Tech. That's one. And when you're in the band, you're in the band. If you go to HBCU, the band is almost like a sports team. So you have practice to late nights, especially around homecoming. If you have a big battle or something, and you're traveling with the band. And the thing that I had to think about is that, what focus will I have on my career and in engineering if I'm only band focused? I love marching band, which was dope. I still even play. I still even gigged after I got out of college, like around the city of Detroit. But one thing I found is that, hey, I need to go to school for something that would vet me, or that would result in a great return on investment in my career rather than building up a whole bunch of debt. How can I get out and directly be able to contribute to my debt that I might accumulate or career progression? And I would say that going to my school, two of my following managers went to my university.
Wow.
Two of my following hiring managers went to Michigan Tech. And that was one of the things that we talked about during the interview, is about Michigan Tech, about Winter Carnival, about the UP, about the professors. And that was something that, it is a bit of a network, right? There is a network that comes from being a part of HBCU. Don't get me wrong, but that professional engineering network in the state of Michigan, yep. Michigan Tech really helped me out a lot with that. So,
yep,
absolutely.
If anyone is watching this and is new to the channel, please subscribe. If you want to donate, I left my Cash App right there in the chat. So 2 things. Well, first of all, yeah, I remember my auntie did ask me, what are you going to do with a degree from Johnson C. Smith University? That's my undergraduate institution. Mm-hmm. At that time, I didn't understand what she was asking me, but then when I thought about it, I was thinking, okay, yeah, who has heard of? And if there are any JCSU alums listening to this, I'm not dissing our institution, but it's an important consideration. What network will I have, and what network will I be a part of when I go to my next step or when I go out into the working world? And that was one of my main motivations for going to the University of Michigan, because I wanted to go to a big name school and, get some credentials and get some training from one of the big boys. So that's an important consideration. And parents and children, I think, would do good to at least have that conversation.
Yeah.
Because in today's market, if you pay that out-of-state tuition and you don't have any way to pay for it on the back end, well, we're seeing a lot of what happens today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just even talking about this whole debt thing, I have several friends, and again, not just as you were saying, not shaming any HBCUs, but a lot of people went straight from Cass Tech to like a Howard University or a Hampton University, who has some of the highest tuitions out of all the HBCUs, or Spelman or Morehouse. They charge exorbitant amounts of tuition for their students. And these students are coming from all around the United States to go to these schools. But I don't think a lot of times they're considering what that debt looks like after school. So that when I went into college, there was a big push for affirmative action. Yep. So I got a lot of diversity incentive grants and Black student excellence grants and scholarships. So that really paid for a good amount of my in-state tuition as I went to Michigan Tech for my first several years. So yeah, that consideration after college is something that should be considered before college rather than after.
Because when you're 17 and 18, your parents can talk to you about it, and hopefully they do, but you don't appreciate until you have to pay bills yourself. You have no idea what it's like on the back end. I can't imagine having to pay $100K back and $200K. I can't imagine what that's like. What I was going to say before we go on to the next question is, in terms of the marching band, when I transferred to Johnson C. Smith University, because I had transferred from a PWI, that band was out there until 8 o'clock at night. It was dark, and you could hear the tuba and the drums, and they'd come in the cafeteria looking more worn down than the football players.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they were.
So that HBCUs, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal.
I mean, even look at like in the South, the football games are structured even differently, right? Because there's the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, but marching band has additional quarters. So it's like the quarter 0, which is pretty much the beginning of the time where the bands get in the stands, and they typically challenge, right? They might throw out some preliminary songs and whatnot, but there's also the 5th quarter, and the 5th quarter goes beyond the football game, and it goes into additional challenges. I mean, this can go well into the night. I've seen fifth quarter videos But like, I mean, especially if you're talking about like the Boombox Classic between Jackson State and Southern, I mean, the crowd stays for the band. So just
Yep.
as you mentioned, that band is worn out and everything, it happens. It definitely happens. So, or like the Heritage Classic between TSU and Jackson State, or if you get into like the the Bayou Classic, there's a whole different show. You guys feel anyway. I can go on and on and on, but
Yep.
yes, I didn't want to go to school for band only. I wanted to go to school for my career after college. So
After college. Okay. So discuss some, and by the way, my father wanted to go to Lincoln, and his father, my grandfather, didn't want him to go to Lincoln because he thought that the education he would get at a PWI would be better. So in the past, I'm just saying this to the audience that this is a thing. Parents and children have gone through this, and there are all these considerations involved with going to HBCUs versus PWIs.
Right.
What discuss your training at Michigan Tech? Were you in an engineering field? Were you in physics? Were you in IT? What were you in?
So I went to college for electrical engineering.
Okay.
At Michigan Tech with a focus on power systems, which were those substations, electrical generation, those like power generation and power distribution. That was my focus for electrical engineering. So that's when you get into pretty much, I mean, you get all your calculuses, right, as your prerequisite, Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. Then you also do differential equations and linear algebra, but then you also do engineering statistics. You pretty much jump into all of the maths. For Michigan Tech, we only have to take 2 additional math classes to be considered a math minor at Michigan Tech, all electrical engineers. But then you get into some of your specific classes like digital logic, where it's like the ones and zeros, adding and subtracting and dividing, really understanding the language that computers talk. And you get into some programming. I took a Java class, which is an object-oriented programming class. And then I get into like my circuits, right? My circuits lab, my electromagnetism, where you get into a lot of the theory of electricity or digital signal processing, how sound and digital signals travel over the waves. And then you can start getting into more of your electives, like motor drives. You understand how electrical motors work, and you get into your circuit components and diodes and resistors and transistors and all these different components. So that was a lot of my undergraduate experiences in electrical engineering, but with a big focus on power generation and power distribution and power transmission. So that was my undergraduate experience.
Now, at that time, did you know that you wanted to get into cybersecurity, or did you have your eyes on something else at that time?
I had my eyes on something else at the time. So I was fortunate enough to be able to come out of high school with the internship with Ford Motor Company. So while I was at Cass, because Cass Tech has a partnership with Ford, GM, and Chrysler, and there was like what you call like a competition. It was called the Ford competition, where I think it was 15 of us high school seniors who competed in like kind of like a marketing / engineering type of competition. And one person from that the winning team all got like $1,500 scholarships. And the one person from the whole program got an internship with Ford Motor Company between their senior year of high school and their freshman year of college. And I was able to get that, which I was very happy about. So I had a focus on automotive engineering. So that was my initial focus. And that's really what I did a lot after college. I went into a tier 1 supplier for Ford. And I was working as a wire harness design engineer after college. So focusing on like the electrical distribution within Ford vehicles. Yep. That was like my focus right out of college.
Okay. Yeah. So I imagine growing up in Detroit, getting into one of the big 3, that was a lot of kids were probably looking at that, right?
Oh yeah.
Going that route.
Pretty much everybody who goes into engineering in Michigan, I know that you see it right all the time. Everybody wants to get into one of those guys. I do think that it's there were some pluses and minuses to it, because like it has a very antiquated type of work environment. Yep. It's very like older, and you can within those very large organizations, they put you in one little corner of work. They say,
Yep.
hey, you will do this and you will do this forever and you get good at it. So, I think that's one minus about being in those very large organizations. You kind of get kitty cornered into one specific work task where you can't really branch out and have a lot of autonomy in your career progression. So, yeah.
Okay. Hey, I want to thank Keep It Techie for the Cash App. So Gabe, before we move on past Michigan Tech, were there any challenges in a math intensive curriculum like that? Did you have to study insane hours? Did you have to stay home from the parties? Like what were there particular challenges, and how did you manage?
Pretty much all of that. All of that. So Detroit Public Schools is pretty much infamously known to not really prepare a lot of students for like accelerated college level classes. And beyond my math classes, where in high school, where I did a lot of advanced placement math classes because of the math core that I was in, right? When I was in high school, the math camp I was in, the math was good for me in college. The thing that wasn't good for me was a lot of the programming and the engineering classes. I didn't have a lot of that foundation. There were students that were coming in to school already knowing Java. Into Michigan Tech, people already knew about circuit theory, knew about resistors, transistors, and all these logic gates. They knew about all this stuff. I didn't, so I really had a learning curve. So to your point of putting in many hours, yeah, I did, especially my first several years. But then you know how college is, right? There are many distractions there. One distraction that's not at Michigan Tech is women. There aren't really a lot of women that go to Michigan Tech. When I was there, it's probably like a 1-to-6 ratio of males to females, or of females to males. So for every female, there was probably 6. Sometimes I think for some years it was like 8, 1-to-8 ratio of males to females. So women wasn't the thing, but it was mainly like video games. I played a lot of Guitar Hero. I played a lot of that goofy stuff and playing online games. That was one of my major distractions. And just like, kids get unfocused, sleeping all the time. But I think that eventually, that worked itself out of me. So just like you were saying with your experience, you didn't get that focus until undergrad. And I think those are just growing pains. So, but eventually, did have to put in a lot of hours to make it through.
Okay, we got a little joke here. So that's why Ford sucks. Green machine. In the sciences, there's a lot of time you have to spend working on your coursework, especially if there's math involved. You have to be disciplined enough to set that time aside. Most of my Sundays were spent, especially when I was taking general chemistry, just sitting in my room and just going over problems and making sure that I knew how to do the problems.
Absolutely, because really, I wouldn't say that like math or STEM is, well, let me just speak for math. I wouldn't say that math is so difficult, right? In a lot of those courses, like the calcs and the linear algebra and differential equations, it just takes focus and repetition. The more problems that you get in, the more comfortable you are with the concepts, and that directly transitions into you being successful in the field, right? I think a lot of times with people in the African American community, they say it's hard, so hard, so hard. I think it's more of putting the time aside and getting a lot of reps in. It's just like even with like a jump shot, right? Like if you're shooting a basketball, the more you shoot, the more that muscle memory is there, the more comfortable you are, the more confident you are with that. And I think math is the exact same concept. The more you do it, the more comfortable you are with the subject matter. So
I agree. And if you're struggling spending time with the professor, I at my HBCU, I did really well in pre-Cal 2, got an A. And the next semester, I tried taking Cal 1 and dropped halfway through the semester. And I remember the professor told me, he said, you know what the difference is between you excelling in pre-Cal 2 and Cal 1? He said, you were in my office every day
Yeah.
after class in pre-Cal 2. And that was the difference.
Right.
And I was like, wow.
That's very important, right?
It
That's
is.
extremely important. Like utilize, like those professors are there because you employ them with your with your tuition payments. So utilize them to your highest ability. Like use your professors. If anybody is in college and they're listening, so you know.
So, Gabe, so moving on. So you were at Ford. You were in
Mhm.
a Ford internship. Uh, did that mean that you went and worked for Ford right after graduating?
Yeah, yeah. So I work with what you call like a tier one supplier. So it's like a proxy organization, but it's like
Yep.
Ford, right? So I work for a company called Yazaki, but I was doing all Ford wire harnesses, what
Yes.
you call. So yeah, so within vehicles, there's like all this electrical distribution in the form of wires, and each part of the vehicle has what you call like a wire harness. So there's typically some wrapping, some tape around those wires. It pretty much says when electricity needs to get to a certain part of the vehicle, that is what I was responsible for. I had certain wire harnesses that I was responsible for, pretty much from the beginning of the vehicle all the way to you turn the key. So part of my responsibility was to design those wire harnesses with different software in Michigan. Then I would travel down to Mexico where these are all assembled, right? I would travel down to Mexico to the plants where I would be there on the lines to making sure that what we designed is what they were manufacturing and assembling. And then I would follow that up to the plants in Michigan to where they would put everything in the vehicle and turn the key. So it's kind of like from beginning, from I guess origin all the way to completion. That was my responsibility as a wire harness design engineer for Ford vehicles. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, Gabe, it sounds like there was a bit of a jump somewhere. How did you get from that into cybersecurity?
Man, it's several jumps. Okay, so I jumped from there to working as a nuclear engineer. So I
Wow.
don't know if you so I'm sure you heard of DTE Energy, so Detroit
Yes.
Edison.
Yep.
So I work for DTE, and they have a nuclear plant like a little bit south of Detroit, probably 45 minutes south of Detroit. So I was primarily in like a training program to train me as a nuclear engineer. And kind of how they bring electrical engineers in is that they understand that you have the base understanding. And especially, like I said before, in my undergrad, I have a focus on power generation. So power generation comes in many forms, right? You can have wind, you can have solar, you can have water, like dam water, or you can have oil and gas, you can have natural gas, or you can even have nuclear. So nuclear fuel is one way that power is generated. So me having that electrical engineering and power generation focus, I was able to transition directly into a nuclear plant. And pretty much what I was responsible for were different components within a nuclear plant that such as like sensors. So this is when we start getting digital, all right? So there are sensors that monitor certain processes within the nuclear plant that I was responsible for. I had to know how healthy these devices were. I had to have an understanding of what some of their vulnerabilities were, upgrading software, upgrading firmware. So that was my jump from that of automotive there into nuclear. So that was that.
What made you decide to make that jump though? Did you say, okay, I've done enough of this harness thing for, and I want to do something else? Or was it you saw the nuclear industry going in a certain direction? Or
so that jump came from I was seeing the same thing that I was doing as a wire harness design engineer year one that I was seeing year 15 wire harness design engineers doing. So I was noticing a trend is that one, they were not training people to be anything different other than wire harness design engineers. And two, I wanted to greater apply all of that math and that science and that higher level understanding to something that was more scientific and something that was more interesting, right? That can kind of, I guess, quench my engineering thirst. Because what was happening is that I was just kind of responsible for something
Mhm.
in a vehicle, right? And many people were doing that. but I didn't know a lot of nuclear engineers. I didn't have a lot of training. So that was my major reason for transitioning over. And really, any type of promotions would be to a supervisor in my role with Ford. So I'm like, I don't really want to just go from this to a supervisor and not really be training anything. So I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into a certain career path that was limited. All of those reasons were part of that transition.
Okay, so what was the next stop after the nuclear plant?
So there was a transition within the nuclear plant because there was something that happened called Stuxnet. I don't know if you ever heard of Stuxnet before.
No.
But it is a malware or like a malicious virus that infected a Iranian nuclear facility, and it caused what you call these centrifuges, which are used to enrich nuclear fuel. It caused these centrifuges to spin out of control and cause damage to that particular nuclear facility. And this was a targeted nuclear facility attack, and it's called Stuxnet. Stuxnet caused, I guess, tidal waves around all of nuclear industries all around the world.
Wow.
And then as a result, my nuclear plant, along with everybody else's nuclear plant, they started implementing cybersecurity guidance or more cybersecurity guidance. And since I was pretty much the youngest dude around, they threw me on all the cybersecurity stuff. So, right, automotive needed to transition into something different, nuclear Stuxnet happened, and then nuclear cybersecurity was now my bread and butter because they trained me, they threw me into everything, and then as a result, they made me like a SME, a subject matter expert in cybersecurity for nuclear plants, and that was that transition that happened there.
Okay,
and it was funny, kind of telling right. When you're talking to the ladies, like a young guy, you're in your mid-20s, early 20s, saying, "Hey, I'm a nuclear cybersecurity engineer." Like they all thought I was lying. Like all thought I was lying. Like nobody thought I was telling the truth. So that was also another transition. So
okay, I mean, how many of those are walking around Detroit or Buffalo or wherever? Green Machine says the high-level mathematics allow to get the quotient wrong, but still get some credit for the equation method. We have another joke here. MLR says, in other words, Gabe, you got bored with your job. We have a lot of humor today.
No. It was not boring. It was not boring at all. Because when we go down to Mexico, you pretty much had a free. So I would go to different cities in Mexico. One was Chihuahua. I don't know if you guys ever been to Chihuahua, but pretty much it's a whole bunch of low-level hotels, but then there's a resort. Because of the type of hotels that were there, we stayed at the resort. So it was called the I forget the name of it. I forget the name of it. So we would literally be able to go down to Mexico, stay in resorts, and engage with the local people there. So sometimes I would be there a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It was extremely fun. So let me not say at all, I was not bored. It was a lot of fun. But the thing is that I wasn't seeing career progression and career opportunities there. So I would like to say that.
So at the nuclear facility, you transitioned into the cybersecurity expert, basically.
Yeah.
So did you have to learn how to, I mean, did you have to learn how to write code or write programs to stop the attacks, or what did that involve, or get the right programs in that would stop the what did that involve?
So as it concerns training, there's not a huge focus on programming with that initial cybersecurity introduction, but it was mainly like training in the form of, I don't know if you ever heard of the SANS Institute. It's a cybersecurity training organization. So they pretty much give like very high, like very good in-depth training on like cybersecurity concepts. So things like defense in-depth technologies, right? So you might have, so say for instance, I would have like a switch, like a regular network switch, or let's say this, like a regular Windows workstation, right? So that Windows workstation controls a bridge or a crane that moves nuclear fuel from the center of the reactor core into what you call a spent fuel pool for storage. So when you talk about defense in depth or security controls, what you want to do is that you want to layer those security controls around that device. So some of those controls might include full disk encryption. So if that machine, if anybody stole that machine, they wouldn't be able to access the sensitive data within that machine. Additionally, you might want to put that machine behind a firewall, which is a networking device that restricts or allows certain network traffic back and forth so that you can protect that machine. You might also want to put that machine in a physical location where everybody can access it in the event that somebody mistakenly types something wrong and causes some unintended action, right? So you're kind of learning how to protect things from like an architectural, but even like a technical perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So it wasn't a lot of training, a lot of programming there, but you're more of learning systems and ways to secure those systems and devices within my case in nuclear plants.
Okay. So from there, how did you transition into consulting?
Okay. So there with DTE at the nuclear plant, at the Fermi 2 nuclear plant, they wanted me to become the program manager, the cybersecurity program manager. And I think I was 24, 25 at the time. So they were kind of making me less technical and giving me more of that manager responsibilities. I ain't like that. I wanted to get my hands deep and dirty into all the cybersecurity stuff. I wanted to really jump into the field and really understand different environments. I did not want to be pigeonholed into one corner of my field. So I hit the road and start contracting. So I moved down to North Carolina in Charlotte, and I was working for an organization called System One. So it was like a contracting organization for different nuclear plants all around the United States. Because what happens is that every commercial nuclear plant goes through an inspection every, I think, 2 years, a year and a half. So my responsibility as a cybersecurity contracting assessor was to get these plants ready to be inspected by the government entity that is making sure that they are secure from a cybersecurity standpoint. So that's what I hit the road and start doing. So I did that. I was working for them. And then I would travel to California because there's a plant over there called Diablo Canyon Nuclear Plant. And then eventually I wound up in Pittsburgh doing another contracting role with a company called Westinghouse who makes nuclear plants. I started doing a bit of that, helping to secure those systems all around the world pretty much. And then I went to, then let me just say this, because it was a couple other stops, but then eventually I wound up in cybersecurity consulting because I had a wide range and a wide breadth of experiences in different organizations and in different environments. And they were like, well, this is perfect for consulting, right? You have a diverse background and you can be, I guess, flexible and malleable to deal with a wide range of customers. So that's how I got into consulting.
Okay.
A lot there, right?
Yeah, well, no, it's cool. So, becoming a consultant, so that means you went into business for yourself. So I didn't go into business for myself. So there are different types of consultants, right? So there are those consultants who do business for themselves. They make their own LLC or S corporation or whatnot and kind of contract themselves out. But I actually work for a cybersecurity consulting firm. And that firm is called Mandy and FireEye. I don't know if you ever heard of them before, but I work for Mandy and FireEye as a consultant. So I work as a consultant for a consulting organization. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. And you guys basically make recommendations to these energy companies about how to protect their operations from cyber attacks.
Man, if that's all we did, it would be super easy.
Okay, I'm just trying to piece it all together.
No. That's a part of it. So there is a part where we make recommendations. So we do different services. There's times where we can come into an organization and they provide us their internal documentation, right? They might provide us network architecture, electrical diagrams. They might send us pictures of their environment, policies and procedures, and we look at them and then we give a recommendation. That would be easy. But there's also things that we do, such as red teaming or ethical hacking. So then what they would do is that they hire us to come into their environment to act as the bad people and to use the bad people techniques to find vulnerabilities in their systems so that we can recommend how they might be able to patch those particular systems or to close up those security gaps. And there's also other services that we do where if an organization has actually been hacked, they bring us in order to respond to the hack. So that's called incident response, cybersecurity incident response. So those are some of the services that we do overall. Yep. But I wish it was we just was like, oh yeah, you guys should do that. All right, cool, pay us. But all
right.
But there's a bit more, yeah.
Going into well, let me ask you this: what skills does an individual need to work in this field? For if there's a young person listening to this, is the technical background? Is it just the cybersecurity training itself?
Right.
Critical thinking skills. What?
Man, pretty much all of what you said plus, right? Because I think that a lot of times people look at cybersecurity as a technical thing, right? It is in some cases, and again, it depends upon what you're doing, but it is in some cases. So, right in the red team engagements or the ethical hacking that I do, I have to be able to know operating systems. So, there's a popular operating system called Kali Linux. It's a Linux distribution that has all these offensive security tools in it, where you're able to test vulnerabilities in systems. So, I have to be able to use those tools. There is some programming involved. I might need to understand different operating systems like Windows, Mac, and Linux, and the vulnerabilities out there, the exploits. I think that's some of the technical side, but I think that really the foundation to it is that critical thinking and that inquisitive point. Because just a couple of weeks ago, I was actually up there in Buffalo, right? So I was there with a gas compressor customer, a gas compressor station customer. And one thing that I was doing was a physical assessment of their plants or their stations to make sure that somebody can't access this place from a physical perspective to get to the digital devices. So I was doing things like walking around the edges of the gate, looking at different pain points. Hey, if I'm pulling up to the gate, is there signage saying stop, don't trespass, or can I just drive right in the gate and nobody notices? Do they have cameras anywhere around? Are there gaps that people can get under? I'm asking questions like, hey, do you guys ever see any large animals anywhere around? And for one of the stations, they were like, yeah, we see large animals like deer and bear is season. I'm like, that might be an indication that you guys have a large gap somewhere because you have this fencing, but if large animals are winding up inside of your gates, that might be an indication of some type of breach. And we actually did find it, right? There was a large gap under one of the gates that they didn't know was there, right? So I would say that there needs to be a combination of that technical, but also that critical thinking and that just being inquisitive. Because even things I was looking at different sign-in sheets because they say that they don't have anybody there over the weekend. And I'm like, well, based upon the sign-in sheet that I saw, I see that there are weekend people. So who was here over the weekend? And do you have a record of who that was? Because if people lose track of who's coming in and out of their facilities, they can lose track of, say, for instance, somebody malicious, like a hacker came in, right? Or somebody that's trying to cause some type of damage. So back to your point, it needs to be a combination of technical and I think that critical thinking skills too.
Okay, it literally sounds like a bit of detective work.
Yeah, a lot of that. A lot of it. Yeah.
All right. Well, Gabe, we have two more. I don't know how much time you have. If you have to run right away, or if you have some time to open it up.
No, I'm good. I have time.
Okay. So I'm gonna throw the link in the chat if anyone wants to come up. But I have two more questions. The first one, and you can be as explicit about this or as general as you want. Do you have future goals one day, like owning, working for another organization or starting your own group? Or
Man, I think so many opportunities kind of present themselves. So I do.
yeah,
So one, I do have an opportunity on the right now. I'm actually interviewing it for next week to start to do some adjunct or some assistant professorship type of roles.
yes,
Because with a master's in cybersecurity or any STEM field, typically you do have the ability to be an adjunct professor. So that is one of my goals and aspirations, right? Is but eventually I do want to jump into, probably after I'm done traveling, doing all this work and being on call all the time, I do want to kind of settle down and maybe be in a tenure track professor
oh,
for cybersecurity at somebody's university. So
yeah,
that is a goal. Yep. But also I like big tech organizations too. So I've been tapped for certain of those type of roles and interviews here and there. So, like FANG organizations or Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, what is Google, like one of those type of organizations too. So I do have aspirations to kind of be on the cutting edge of technology in general. So those are some of my aspirations. But eventually, maybe I don't know. It's hard to say because opportunities present themselves like pretty much on the weekly. So
yeah.
I mean, it could go to like a CISO role, a chief information security officer role within a electrical utility organization. That might be an aspiration, but we'll see what happens, man. I'm just open to a lot of things at the moment.
Well, your last point leads into that my last question. Everyone, I dropped the link in the chat if anyone wants to come up. For coming generations, is this a field that's going to be around for a while? I mean, we are getting more digital, more technological. Do you foresee that this field is going to be with us for the future?
Yes, and yes.
Okay.
Because just as you mentioned, I mean, there's this, and you have probably heard this before, right? This whole idea of IIoT, or I'm sorry, IoT.
The IoT.
Stands for the Internet of Things. And simply, the Internet of Things is internet connected devices with IP addresses. So you have your refrigerator these days. You have smart refrigerators that are able to talk to the internet to get temperature readings of what's going to happen during the day. It can tell you when you're low on certain things within your machine, and it can send a message to your phone. Or you might even have smart thermometers, right, within your home, or even things like autonomous driving vehicles. These things will typically be connected vehicles and devices. These things coming online are going to need to be secured in the future. So when you talk about future careers and future opportunities, I'm not seeing anything but growing here. And even like within my organization, we've been utilizing like artificial intelligence and machine learning to do automated penetration testing. So we can put what you call actors or like sensors within certain networks. And then what it would do, so say for instance, you're trying to test the effectiveness of a firewall. We can put an actor within the network to say, okay, boom, try to get out. So it will try all types of techniques and methods, the things that we do typically manually. It will try all these things automatically to try to get out of the firewall or get to the other side of the firewall, and it'll be able to test this automatically. So and what it does is that it actually learns the environment, learns the different assets, learns the different devices within that area, and then finds the most optimal path out. So again, I just bring that up to say things are advancing in this field and that there'll be more and more opportunities for sure.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
everyone, hold on, AB. Hey, if anyone, I'm going to show a little visual here. This is one of my favorite images of the IoT. So if there are people watching who are unfamiliar with the IoT, this is basically it. That.
Yes.
So, and I only know about the IoT because I'm a blogger and I get content from a client, and so I get all this information. And so this all the machines. And Gabe, you guys can add it if you want, but all the machines talking and and connected in a way that they're not right now.
Absolutely.
Kind of autonomously, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And that's really the future of our digital infrastructure, right? Everything connected. I'm not saying that that's good or the best, but I know that is happening for sure.
Yeah, we don't have much of a choice.
Nope.
We got to keep
Not
up
much
with
of a
China.
choice at all. Well, there's different uses for it, right? Because I mean, speaking of China and a lot of East Asian places, they're elderly, especially with China with the one-child rule. Their elderly are left in a situation where they don't have people to support them, right? So they utilize a lot of these technologies in order to care for the elderly. Where America's a little bit different. They actually have like homes and things, but sometimes there can be a business case for IoT to help with assisted living type of situation. So, yeah, man.
That'd be a heck of an algorithm, but okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Gentlemen?
Yes, good afternoon. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Hey, doing good.
How are you, MLR?
Yeah, it's just one of the few live streams I've ever came on. Gabe struck a nerve. Gabe, I have a question for you. You mentioned something about SANS certification, which is something that I'm currently doing because I work for the federal government as well in IT. Cool. Did you pursue yours and get yours? And at what level did you get yours?
So for SANS certifications, I have 3 of them. So I have one, it's called the GSLC. So that's the GX Security Leadership. So that's on the 8570 list too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have that one. I have the GICSP, which is the Industrial Cybersecurity one. That's also on the 8570, and I also have the GNFA. So the GIAC Forensic Analyst one. And then now I'm working on GCIH and also the GRID, GRID.
Okay.
So yeah, man, I'm just rolling with them.
Yeah, I hear you. You're focused primarily on the stuff within your field in power distribution and electrical.
A lot of that, but even beyond that. So I'm also a part of an organization called MIC3, it's called the Michigan Cyber Civilian Corps, where we're pretty much like a civilian group that respond to state level incidents within the state of Michigan. So say, for instance, somebody got a phishing attack, right? They'll bring us in order to address them because they don't have people that they can hire to do any of this stuff. So that GCIH and that GNFA is mainly for that incident response.
Yeah, got you. You're basically a cybersecurity mercenary, as I like to call y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, they call you
hands on the keyboard. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, they call you when the shit hit the fan. That's all I got.
Because they happen.
So in other words, when Michigan gets hacked or something, they call you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
They sure do.
Did you guys?
Something actually just happened along. I mean, people talk about the elections. We were doing election support, and there were. I'm not going to disclose everything, but there was some activity that happened. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna just say that.
What about the Google shutdown last week, Wednesday?
Well, that man, I wish I could talk about it, but
I don't want to keep you. I don't want you to disclose any information. So
I definitely
I'm gonna leave it at that. Just food for thought.
What are they doing? Updating their servers?
Listen, I don't know nothing.
There you go, AV Media.
See, because so Dr. Anwar, this is something that happens, right? Especially as it concerns incident response with organizations. Before you respond to their incident, they have you sign NDAs, like non-disclosure agreements.
Yes,
because organizations can lose trust if their breaches are all exposed to the world. So they typically have you respond to it, but you can't speak about what that breach was.
Okay.
Unless they disclose it publicly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Banks are extremely sensitive to that type of information.
Very sensitive. Because it's competitive, right? There's a business. See, and that's the thing about cybersecurity. It's not just this technical thing that people do. It's actually a business enabler, right? Because if customers cannot trust that they can bank at your facility, where their
Ooh, yeah.
information and their money is safe, then they'll go to your competitor. So
Exactly.
if all of your vulnerabilities are exposed, it will cause a distrust in the service that you provide. So they're very secretive about that stuff.
Exactly. That is the reason why in these times we're becoming more connected.
Yes.
In IT on my side, in the medical side, everything is being connected to the network in terms of patient information, type of diagnosis, dissemination of drugs, all of that kind of stuff. So that has to be protected, and that's one of my responsibilities. I'm responsible for protecting the data center that houses all the data for all the patients that we serve here in Central Texas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
especially with HIPAA, right? Because my wife,
yes, yeah, you know, HIPAA, PHI, PAI, that kind of stuff. And if we have a breach of any sort, then I'll get called 2, 3 in the morning. Fortunately, it's never happened. We did have a ransomware attack 5 years ago, and I actually had to make the call to bring the data center down, which not only brought down the hospital in Temple, but the one in Houston and the one in Dallas.
Wow.
So you know, imagine me, you know, speaking to the secretary of the VA, who I work for, explaining to him why we had to break it down, because every time someone clicked on a folder, that folder would propagate the virus even further. And it took us 2 weeks to recover from that. So
it's important, right? Because access to medical records and medical data is, I mean, it's like one of the most integral things that we have today, and it sells for a very high price. And we didn't talk about this, but sells for a very high price on the black market. People, because that's information that doesn't change, right? People's medical history, people's medical data. So, you know, it's a very high ticket item in certain spheres.
Yeah, well, in healthcare, there's a challenge in perspective of how long we are required to keep patient data. I'm a former DBA, so when I talk to
the techie, there you guys go.
I'm really geeky, to be honest, but I'm going to leave that alone. We have a requirement to maintain patient records for almost a century. Okay, so say if you have a son, you did the military, you did 20 years, then your son goes and he does 20 years, and he has children and all that. We were required to maintain all of that.
Wow.
Okay. So and then so you were assigned in California and your son went to North Carolina, and then we are required to bring all of that information under one roof to manage it, because you have a historical picture of your family as you're going through different. So you go to war. So you go to a small fight somewhere. What type of medications you used at that time? Because I'm gonna go for a vet, so we had to take certain medications for nerve gas, and then what are the results of those? The side effects. You got Vietnam vets, Agent Orange. You have naval vets, Blue Water. All of that stuff is cataloged and database. Whatever civilian hospital you went to, you know, it's now closed. The doctors who were working on you are now dead, and the hospital has been absorbed by another hospital. Those are the kind of things that I deal with in terms of managing data. So yeah, that's
got to be a crazy amount of tables.
Well, the VA in this infinite wisdom, they designed their own operating system to manage it. When President Obama took office, he went to the Secretary of Defense and mandated that he wanted records for every soldier, Air Force, Airman, Marine, Coast Guard, and Army soldier to track their records from the time they joined and raised their hand till the time they were dead, right? Now, you got to remember that a lot of this stuff was done on paper, okay?
Oh, boy.
So you have to convert that to digital in order to put it in their records, right? Meanwhile, we're still going to wars. We still have soldiers and airmen and Marines and all of those coming back with injuries, not to mention the disabilities they have. All of that stuff has to be cataloged, has to be managed. And, we're talking in the space of, say, 1945 to now, we've been into like 9 or 10 wars. Okay. Now you're dealing with at least 9-10 million
that's
patients.
all right.
So when you look at the scope, I know there was a lot of fun being poked at the Affordable Care Act called Obamacare, but I don't think people really understood what it took to get that amount of information under one roof. It's incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't want to take over the call. I'm gonna just let everybody, because I can go on and on and on and on.
Oh, it's all good.
Hey, I'm gonna hop in there then right fast. What's up?
Hey, what's up, man? What's up,
Hey.
Keep Take?
All right.
Hey.
What's happening? How you doing, Dr. Anwar? I appreciate you doing these type of streams. You know what I'm saying? It's always wonderful to see, intellectual brothers coming together and having discussions and teaching people how to actually get into these different fields. But you kind of already answered my question, Gabe. When I clicked the link, I started hearing you talk about it. I was basically gonna ask you about the automation port in cybersecurity and how that's impacting jobs currently. So that was really my question. But I'm trying
So what
to
are you
think
seeing? I guess from the DBA and other the tech fields that you're involved in.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing it's coming slowly, but for surely it's coming, as far as like the way, with databases, it all ties into the server that is running on. And nowadays you can spin up servers, with the snap of a finger. You know what I'm saying? 15 minutes, you got a couple servers up, and you just have to install the software on it to manage the databases and everything. But so that automation piece is really, here, especially with the whole cloud computing thing and all that. But that's,
I was going to ask.
I just see it coming. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, MLR and Keep It Techie and AB, if you guys have seen anything, and this might be a little interesting for Ramil, because, right, so all these tables, all this data, it's just information, right? And you pretty much put it into a database. You're able to query it. You're able to do some evaluations, some comparisons and whatnot. I mean, I guess from where do you all see any intersections between that of automation and data and real estate, right? Are you seeing where it makes real estate easier, right? So say, for instance, Ramil jumps in there, right? He's looking for a way to find certain homes that are at a certain price value that are, like, I know there's certain websites, they have search filters for it, but are you guys able to see any additional, I guess, intersections between real estate and tech? Ramil, have you seen any either?
Yeah, I listened to Ramil.
I haven't seen it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's created in the next few years.
Well, it's already there.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, in at least in the state of Texas, if you're a licensed realtor, there's a database where you can see houses coming on the market before anybody sees it. Whether banks have repossessed properties, abandoned properties, and you can go out there, and the bank has it, and they're getting ready to put it out there. So they put it out there, but nobody has bidded on it to sell it yet.
Like something like that, right? Because if somebody is default on their loan, or say, for instance, they haven't paid their taxes after a certain amount of years, you put in a certain search query to be able to anticipate when they're going into foreclosure and when you might be able to scoop that up or something, right? Have you seen anything like that, Ramil? Like, I don't know.
No, but I'd be interested in it.
Facts. Me too.
I don't blame Ramil for being interested in it. The thing about it is, gentlemen, you got to remember that you're competing against your contemporaries. I always like to say the squeaky wheel always gets the grease, right? So if Ramil had a way to see all of that and bid it at the ground level where he could get it at the lowest possible price so he could turn it around for a profit, go for it, but trust and believe there are other people who are in the loop that are making sure that they will get first take before he has a chance to see it. And if you want to be inside that circle, because there's only so many seats at that table, right? You have an option to be in or out, and there's a cost associated with that.
What's that cost?
You know, I'm sorry.
What's that cost?
I have no idea.
Here's the thing. When we talk about stuff like that, people always want to mystify. You're not going to be able to get this or that. You got to be in that circle. At the end of the day, it's going to be competition, and if something like that gets you the upper edge, there's going to be other people using it. You don't have to sell your soul. None of that crap. You just got to be good at what you do, and if you create your own circle, you know what I mean. I just don't, and that's why I came up here because I want to say I appreciate all the tech guys for doing everything in tech, because at the end of the day, tech is becoming bigger. Automation is coming down the pipe, and you know, at the end of the day, we can either be scared of it or we can leverage it. All right, whether you agree with it or not agree with it. Like I don't agree with a lot of the stuff. But at the end of the day, if we don't do it, another country's gonna do it. It just is what it is. So
exactly,
it's better. I'm just better off just saying, okay, I'm gonna just utilize it, what the tech guys create, because at the end of the day, this gotta be at the forefront of stuff. And you know,
it's better.
I mean, I'm even thinking of something now.
Rather to be scared, just go ahead and go do it. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm gonna my IoT cartoon one more time. You guys keep talking, but just for people watching this who don't know what the IoT is, because I didn't know what it was till I, you know, published it up for a collaborator. But this is what we're talking about. This is what people are talking about when they talk about the IoT.
Everything connected.
Everything connected. So
exactly. So you gotta leverage that.
And that's the thing, right? Because the initial thought got me a little more interested about the problem, right? Because so Ramil, where you do business in real estate, don't you have access? Like all of this is public. I know in Detroit, I can be able to look on government funded websites to know if somebody is in foreclosure or know if a certain property has a certain amount of property taxes, and then I can be able to list who are the people or whose name is under that, right? And then I can probably take that, right? That's just that name of that person. I could probably take that name and automate a script to be able to search for their most recent contact information.
Skip
so
tracing.
Right, I can see, hey, this person is knee deep in debt on their property. They are the owner, and this is their most recent contact information. That can automatically generate a list of people who I can call to try to see if I can take something off of their hands.
Oh well, yeah, you kind of behind, bro. That's that's been the play for a few years now.
I know that, but I'm saying to automate that, right? Literally, like a Python script, right? So write a particular program,
like an app. Okay,
boom, right?
Yeah,
and it can generate that in an Excel spreadsheet, and it can just do it faster for you, right? I was just kind of thinking of that.
A lot of money can be made. See, if I knew anything about tech, I'll spend for that. I'll spend for that.
Well, you know, in Python, they have what you call modules, and these modules give you capabilities to do certain things. So there are certain modules that allow you to scour the internet. So if you put like the website of wherever you're getting like that local information about foreclosures or property tax, you can have it go to certain pages. And then you can have it look for a certain amount. So if it's greater than, if that tax piece is greater than a certain amount, then you take that whole page and return it, and then you take that name. So you know, it's things that you can do with like a Python script that I'm thinking of at least, that you can generate a list, right? Fresh, a fresh one every time.
Yeah, and that's similar to something that I've actually dabbled with, and it was mainly to find leads from Twitter. So it's a Python script that I leveraged to go through Twitter and look at the Twitter feeds, just look for specific information. I can't remember exactly what the project or what exactly I was trying to get, but they do have those APIs you can connect to query, you know, the database and try to find information based on search keys. So I think it might have been a Linux thing I was doing, but yeah, that is possible. You know what I'm saying? It just takes somebody to actually write it.
Listen, we done game planned the whole thing here. Go ahead, AB.
I actually tested Windows Phone's defunct now, but I had access to the developer kit, and I actually tested Twitter's API and was able to write an app that I could type somebody's username in and see their tweets.
Oh wow.
Yep.
And,
You can do that.
and bring up the tweets.
So that API stands
Wow.
for an application programming interface. So it's pretty much the interface between you and whatever is happening with that. In this case, some type of web application. So
It's kind of like
kind
what
of ping it for
Cambridge.
information.
It's kind of like what Cambridge Analytica was doing when they was getting the information from Facebook. They were pulling the information from API, Facebook's API, to create advertisement.
So
what happened to
the Analytica? I remember watching that documentary. Didn't they still around? Right? What happened with them?
I don't remember the full story. I just know that Facebook got called in front of Congress because of
that white boy was mad as ever.
Yeah.
So that's why they say, like, jumping right back into cybersecurity, you're supposed to protect your API keys, and you're not supposed to give people your API if you had developed some web application or something, because it can give them direct access and to try to query information about what's on the other side of the API. So
Twitter's API was using XML extensible markup language, but I discovered later that they switched to JSON, which is the JavaScript format, and actually I'm discovering that's actually more efficient.
Yeah, and Python can leverage JSON. It can. It
Sharp can too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sorry, but yeah, they have the libraries for all those programming languages that you can add to, because all it is a text-based database. Based on when I would play with it. So
just a bunch of data that you can access, pretty much.
Pretty much.
So let me ask you a question. Oh, my bad.
Go ahead.
Well, just real quick, I've been seeing this app for I've been seeing this advertisement for something that you can make an app without coding. I forgot what the company's called. I've been seeing them. Maybe some of y'all seen them on YouTube. What do y'all think about
Keep It
that?
Tech, you know all about that one. I think you did a video on it, Keep It Tech, didn't you? The codeless coding or no code.
I can't remember. Yeah. I think I touched on it.
Let me see if I can pull it up, man. I've been seeing the ads everywhere.
So that's again, right, getting into more Appy Pie. I think
Appy Pie.
Wow.
Free app
Python
creator, app builder to make your app without coding.
I believe it.
I don't know if
I haven't seen that.
It kind of sounds like those web applications you can use to create a website.
Yeah, like Wix.
Like Wix. That's what that is. It sounds like.
Oh shit.
And that's why, I think that we're continuously saying it more and more and more. The barrier of entry into tech, cybersecurity, IT, and whatnot, it is becoming less and less. Where you don't even have to know how to code to build a web application. Exactly. You can customize what you need and use it for whatever your purposes are. The barrier of entry is just decreasing and decreasing.
It is.
To be fair, the barrier to entry to everything is really decreasing. I mean, it's just who wants it, who doesn't want it. Like even with real estate, everything, tech, like all these people want to see, can you perform? Like the barrier to entry for a lot of things is so really no excuse. Just do you want it or not? You know, so that's what I noticed. 2020.
But building web applications used to be difficult. Like it used to be way more difficult than it is now. So it's like kids can do it.
They are doing it, getting millions of dollars.
Right. So you
have to know the server side language and all kinds of other stuff too.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into server administration. Like back in the day, you used to really have to understand how to manage a domain controller. Now it's all GUI based, and I mean it's always been GUI based, but it's way more simpler. And you don't have to do much, especially like when you're looking at Windows 2000. Server 2019, whichever one they own right now. I remember when I first started. Yeah, when I first started, it was Linux. 2003. Yeah. Yep. Oh man, you need to come check me out, man. I'm a Linux guy. I do nothing but Linux videos, man.
Talking about that 2003, like
sorry.
Like you had to manually set up all of those services, like the LDAP. You had to set up your NetBIOS name server, your LNMNR, and all these different servers. You had to. Now you just take it out the box. You go through an installation wizard, and it's all through a graphical user interface. Everything. It's just easy now. Like I could spin up a server right now, probably between now and when we get off this live stream. Like, it's so easy. So, you know,
I gotta get more into that. I haven't really doing my own servers like that.
Man, we gotta start labbing on these streams, man. Like just pulling up a command line interface and just showing people. I know you do it a lot on yours, Keep It Techie, but a lot of it's pre-recorded, man. We should do some live labbing. Just like, listen, let's see what we can do here.
I was gonna hit you up because that was one of the other questions I wanted to kind of ask you. I guess for the folks, as far as like Cali, you mentioned Cali earlier. Are there any other? And I know the answer, but are there any other ISOs or distributions that are typically used in the cybersecurity field that help people with that? Yeah,
there are, and there are many that are coming out like by the day. I mean, so there is Kali Linux, which is probably the most popular. There's also what you call Parrot. It's very similar to Kali Linux, another Linux distribution. I think it's Debian based, which is another flavor of Linux. Yeah. You also have the SANS. So what is it called? DFIR. So it's a digital forensics and incident response operating system for Linux. It's also made by SANS. There's another one for malware and reverse engineering that my organization just came out with. I can't remember the name of it.
Is it Commando OS? So, is that the one you're talking about?
No, not that one, but that was also developed by us too. So, so Commando is another one. That's again for offensive security, but it's all Windows based. So it's a Windows based offensive cybersecurity operating system, and it's typically like you can install it over. I think Windows 10 is the basis, but it's another one that's meant for reverse engineering and malware analysis. So that's where you can like execute different malware on this operating system, be able to evaluate to see what it's actually trying to do. If it's trying to call out to a particular IP address, what it's executing on that device. Like there's so many operating systems and so many tools now that when I first started, it was just like with this tool called Nmap. It was called Network Mapper. That was pretty much like your go-to for everything. And now it's like volatility. It's like all these other operating systems where you can do analysis. So
yeah, now
I can go on and on. Don't get me started, man. Don't get me started.
Yeah, now even Windows is allowing you to run a part of Linux along with our operating system now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the Linux terminal on Windows. I know you don't like that.
Yeah.
Keep It Techie don't like that, do you?
I don't care. Look, I'm a .NET developer. I don't care. I'll leverage it. We can.
And I agree.
Linux now, so hey, why not?
And I agree because majority of the places we can work or we work, they use Windows. So, but AB, that was one of the reasons I asked Gabe to talk about those ISOs or distributions, because you can actually install those operating systems in a virtual machine. I know you probably know that, but install those operating systems in a virtual machine and play around with it, test it out, set up labs and all that stuff, like what he said, what Gabe said.
Hope it ain't like the Android emulator. Oh my gosh.
No. Dr. Anwar, you got any questions, man? You quiet, man. I know you probably got some questions for us.
Man, I'm just listening. I wrote down API. Hey, man, I'm just listening to y'all. We're going to go for about 20 minutes and then we'll shut it down, but I'm just listening.
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to come in, man, to say what's up to y'all, and I appreciate everything y'all do. I know, and also me and Gabe did a cybersecurity stream a while ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think these are important, man. We need definitely more of these discussions because there's a lot of talented black men in this sector who are good with tech too. You know what I'm saying? Who just might not know where to go. So shout out to you guys, man. I'm gonna get up out here.
Remember, before you go, I think we should do something, man. Like I could do a little research on maybe some Python scripts that make doing certain real estate tasks faster. And we could do like a live demo and maybe talk about how it would make what you do easier. Or maybe you might not want to do a live demo.
I mean, well, hold on. Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. We could definitely do that. But just so you know, I don't know if you know or not, but I can't go live anyway. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got for 90 days. So
dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, they got him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what dropping.
I'll get with you though. We'll make it happen. All right.
Hey, Ramil, just to let you know. Ramil, just to let you know, after listening to you this morning and Keep It Techie, both of y'all are my subs, so binge watching you the next couple of days to catch up and see what y'all talking about. It's good to talk to man with the same.
Ramil, you got to bring me on, man, one time, bro.
Oh yeah, anything, yeah. I mean, you should. Look, I was doing one-on-ones with everybody, man. I was, you know what I'm saying. But I think I wait 90 days now. But
yeah.
Dang, that's crazy.
First thing when I get off, you know what I'm saying. If I make it, we're gonna do. Keep it taking. I'll bring you on for one.
For sure. Appreciate it.
Right.
You about to have the Black Photosphere. Thirsty. They hungry, man.
I know, right?
Man. Crazy,
I need to do some more C# videos. I just downloaded Microsoft's new developer kit.
Okay, dope.
Yeah,
I think that a lot of times. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said, let me just make a quick announcement. Hey, if you're new coming into the stream, please like the stream. Please subscribe to the channel. If you want to donate, my Cash App is below the this video. I'll leave it in the chat as well. But Gabe just asked me, Dr. Anwar, you're being quiet. So I think this is a testament to how, in terms of the STEMs, my background is in the biomedical sciences. So you guys are pretty much talking a different language right now, and I'm just listening and seeing what I can absorb. So have at it.
No worries.
Oh yeah, that's why I was quiet when I wasn't even chatting, man. I was just writing down notes when you was on Ramil's stream a while back. So Dr. Anwar,
I just think that probably one of the strongest integrations that'll be very important, especially with these streams and whatnot, is that when people see tech, I think that they're looking for ways to connect with it rather than trying to understand all the details. And that's why I was kind of thinking about that thing because he talks about, like Ramil talks about real estate all the time, finding some type of bridge, right? How can this make what real estate people do easier, or even people who are researchers of certain information, such as Dr. Anwar, right? If you're looking for certain titles, certain information from certain publications, from particular authors, from a certain time period, right? Like tech can make a lot of that easy. I know they have search filters on websites, but a lot of them are like incomplete, or they might be searching a huge database that might take forever to really drill down into the information that you need. So I think that a lot of people are just looking for bridges between what they do in tech.
Well, bottom line is if it's a, I will say this, if it's in a database, it can be found.
Yeah.
Right.
The key is writing the complete query to pull the information out specifically for what you're looking for, and that's the biggest challenge.
And put it together.
Yeah, writing the right routine to look for, knowing exactly what you're looking for, because everybody has a different way of entering data in a database, and if you know those keywords, then you can get the information you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens a lot of times. Like even in cybersecurity, they try to do what you call SQL injection, right? Try to bypass.
Yeah, I've heard the term.
Try to get into SQL servers in order to pretty much pull data out. So they might pull passwords and usernames, be able to authenticate to whatever that backend server is to do whatever they feel like doing to it. So
I'm glad you said that, because which is why they now I've been reading about technology now where when you type your password in, they actually hash code it when they put it in the database. So even if somebody does get back there, they won't have your password.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see that stuff. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's interesting to see that type of stuff too. Is basically leveraging the input fields on like a website. You basically that's how the injection actually works. You have to understand if it's vulnerable or not, but you can add like you can type into the text box an actual query. If you understand how to actually write it, and you can get you can run like to change the default admin password if you kind of guess what it is and change that default password, and then you can log in directly to the server using the SQL port if it's open. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy.
Because typically what we try to do, what attackers try to do is that I'm not an attacker, but what they try to do is that they try to create some type of level of redundancy of access. So they might get all of the usernames and passwords that are in that SQL database, but they'll also insert a different one too, right? So say for instance, a company is like, oh, we've been hacked. So they change everybody's password, but they might create like a null password, something that's right at the bottom that they might not be able to detect. And that'll create a level of additional persistence in the event that they lose the original member or the original passwords and username. So they're always trying to, like, let me tell you, hackers are crafty, man. We're very crafty.
Well, anything can be hacked. The only thing is how much time it takes to get into it. And you can beat it by higher processing speeds and all of that.
Quantum computing and stuff that they talk about.
But anything can be hacked if you are persistent.
So are you saying even if you make the most unique password with symbols and uppercase letters and lowercase letters and numbers, folks can still get in there?
Yeah, if you don't protect if you don't, go through all and it's very hard because it could be vulnerabilities that you don't even know about that can allow someone in. But as long as you, I guess, do the best practice guidelines to protect something, you'll be pretty good, especially if you're using an operating system that's patched quickly. And that's what one of the reasons I recommend like Linux, because a lot of times things are, they'll find because Linux is can also be vulnerable. But a lot of times it's a community behind it instead of one corporate company that patches everything. So they could find a vulnerability this morning and then a couple hours later already have it patched. You know what I'm saying?
So
it's all about timing. Go ahead.
So for the layperson, Linux is that a program?
No, it's operating.
I don't want to take over Gabe.
No, you're good. No, you're fine.
It's operating.
So Linux is an operating system.
Yeah.
Mac, right? Is another, or iOS is an operating system, and Windows is also another operating system. Okay. Linux is just I'm sorry, go ahead. And then Unix, of course.
I'll take back. Android's just another version of Linux. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, Android, they basically take the kernel. They took the Linux kernel and built upon top of it using Java, I think, on the front end. But
I think they're using something else now.
Yeah. They kind of building their own thing. But Linux has been around for a long time. It's just not popular because it was at one point difficult to use. Nowadays they've made it a whole lot easier to use with the desktop environments, where you can even find Linux distributions that look just like Windows. And operate like Windows a little bit. Is a little bit of a learning curve, and that's been the problem for getting people to use Linux because of the learning curve. Most people like our age, we grew up using Windows XP, and all that, all the way up until Windows 10. So hopping on a different operating system, it's kind of like when people hop from Windows to Mac OS. It's a learning curve. Even though Mac OS makes it easier, but Linux is similar to that. But go ahead.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie. If I wasn't a .NET developer, I probably would be on Linux.
Yeah. So kind of even back to your question, Dr. Anwar, about the password. Like if you make it super duper unique and with all the characters and make it super long, like there are certain type of attacks, especially within like a Windows, what you call Active Directory environment, right? Where you can use an attack called pass the hash. So one thing that happens when you create passwords on Windows systems or Windows environments, your password is hashed or kind of encrypted in some way, right? It's jumbled up where somebody who just reads it straight out, they can't tell what it is. So, but there are things that you can do as an attacker where you can capture the password that is hashed and you can use it to authenticate or get into different systems. So say, for instance, you're a domain admin, which is like one of the highest level privileged person in a Windows environment. If I capture your hash, I can use your hash to get into anybody else's computer. So yeah, you can have a crazy unique password, but there are things that you can do where you don't even need to crack the password in order to use it and to authenticate to different services and folders and whatnot. So it's an interesting world out there, man. It's just a lot. Because what companies do now, they use different products called like CyberArk. And what CyberArk does is that you can set it to a certain time interval where for those people like the domain admins, it takes their passwords and it changes it. It changes it like every 30 minutes or every hour. So it makes it more difficult for somebody to perform a patch the hash type of attack. Or even if those credentials are leaked, it changes within 30 minutes or an hour or within the next day. So there are a lot of different defenses against things, but there are a lot of attacks and techniques out there too.
Gabe, I have a question for you. Does your firm also do network enterprise intrusion, specifically what I'm talking switches and routers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Have you heard of us before? FireEye.
FireEye. Yeah, I heard you guys. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know who you guys
That's
are. All right. Yeah, I know some of your guys. They came down here to do some stuff in our data center about 2 years ago.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, they're the cyber mercenaries, I like to call
cyber
them.
mercenaries guys.
Yeah, those guys.
So that's kind of what we are, Dr. Anwar. We're kind of like, so even though I work as a consultant, you work as a consultant for a firm that pretty much takes the cyber mercenaries and uses them to make money. So they charge a certain rate for us,
exactly,
and they make money off of us, and we get a percentage of that. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot from them boys, man. Them boys are pretty slick.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, we're down to what's this? 9 minutes. We can start. You know, if you guys want to say anything before we shut down, go for it.
Yeah, let me hop in there because I got to get off. But I just wanted to say thank you again, Dr. Anwar, for doing these type of streams. You know, I really enjoy it. I subscribed once I seen you on Ramel's channel. You know what I'm saying? You're doing great work, you know, setting the example, which is what we need. We need as Black people to see more examples of brothers out here doing positive things. So I definitely appreciate what you're doing. I'm going to continue to support and thanks for all you guys out there, you know, all you guys up on the panel, putting out this good information for younger brothers that may be listening. You know what I'm saying? It's any little bit helps, you know what I'm saying? So peace to you guys and y'all have a good day.
Okay.
You take care, my bro.
Let's say before you go, keep it techie. You know, I know enough to know what I don't know. So, you know, I set the channel up to also incorporate the tech as well. So if any of you guys want to come back and we'll do this again, we'll do this as much as you want.
Okay, cool. Right. I'll definitely be back. Thank you.
All right, I can go next. Yeah, I'm just gonna thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the interview. Man, this has been a dope hour and 42 seconds. So it's been pretty dope, man. And I just appreciate you for putting this information out there and be interested in the subject matter and just kind of bringing some of the tech brothers in this field together to have some dope conversations. So yeah, appreciate you having me, and I'm gonna hop down and I'll talk to you brothers later. All right.
Hey, Gabe, check the private chat. I just left you a message.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right.
All right.
MLR, AB, anything?
All I have to say is thanks for having me on the panel. It was an interesting conversation. Gabe piqued my interest a lot with a lot of the stuff he was saying. I hope to have him on an AB Media. I didn't know you were in the techie side too, so it's rather interesting. But I was afraid to say something else because I know we would be on for another 2-3 hours because I can go on and on and on and on.
I could.
That's how techs talk. So, but anyway, it's a pleasure being on the panel. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
AB, thanks for having me on, Doc. And this was a fun conversation.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I want to open this up for the tech sector as well. So anytime you guys want to come back, you know, we'll do some more of these. In addition to the stuff I do myself and with Nicole. So
sure, no problem.
Thanks for coming through.
No problem.
All right. Well, that was very educational for me. I hope that it was educational for everyone else. I want to thank Aquatechie for the Cash App. I want to thank everyone who watched here on the live stream. And if you're watching this on the playback, please like the stream. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you want to make a donation, no donation is too small. My Cash App and PayPal will be below this video. And yeah, I want to do more here. My background is in the biomedical sciences, so I can go on and on for days about that. But the acronym STEM is very, very broad. So there's an engineering and there's a technical component in there as well. And as you know, math basically permeates everything, even in the biomedical sciences. There were calculations that I had to do, and there were technical devices like HPLCs and mass spectrometers and microtiter plate readers that I had to use doing my biological experiments. So tech is everywhere. So I'm going to stop this here. Once again, please like the stream, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. If you have any comments or questions on the playback, leave those below, and I'll, get to those, or I'll poke Gabe and say, hey, somebody asked this. And with that, I think I'll stop. So as I always say, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye, and enjoy the rest of your Monday. Bye-bye.